Dana White's Contender Series 2024, week number 3. This is the weigh-in recap show, full card predictions, and the betting breakdown. We got a good card. I'm looking forward to talking about all the fights on it. Super late night for me, 3 a.m. show. So make sure you guys smash the likes. If you're new, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on, and make sure you share the video too. And also note, I'm going to be live for the entire Contender Series card today, Tuesday, fight day at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss the fight, companion. And let's get into the first fight on the card. Jack Duffy versus Nick Piccininni. I think that Nick Piccininni is going to be way too good at wrestling for Duffy to have really any success using his jiu-jitsu black belt. Duffy tends to do well in fights when he can body his opponent with a massive grappling advantage. He's taken on a multiple-time All-American wrestler who's undefeated too, both guys undefeated, which makes for a really fun fight. And especially at flyweight, a division that a couple of wins, you can really emerge as something special out the gate. Piccininni's wrestling's really good. He fought a championship fight last time, and if you went back and watched that fight and you judged him just off of that, you would come to the assumption that he's too patient, probably too patient to get a contract on Contender Series. But what I will tell you is, recognizing that this is a 3-round fight, I do expect a pretty high output and a fast start from Nick Piccininni. He is going to be able to dictate where this fight takes place. That is the ultimate factor. Piccininni in the striking is not bad. He has been dropped a couple times, but has shown very good recovery ability after being hurt. I don't think Duffy has the most dangerous stand-up game, and I don't think he's like an awful striking matchup for Piccininni. So I think he's good to go in striking, and he's definitely the better wrestler. Now you can say, oh, but the black belt in jiu-jitsu for Duffy, that's a big factor. Here is my thought process. In MMA, when you have a quality wrestler like Nick Piccininni and you add in jiu-jitsu to the skill set, which we know he's working on, it's going to be hard to beat. It doesn't matter if you're a black belt. There's a level difference of the experience in wrestling positions, but also what comes alongside of elite caliber wrestling is kind of an unmatched physical strength that nothing can replicate, right? A lifetime wrestler who is an All-American at the collegiate level, who then transitions to MMA, right, and finds his flow, already winning these fights. The potential just seems very high to me. I think Nick Piccininni is a good fighter. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's still a blossoming guy, 27, so a lot of time to grow. He's taking on the 28-year-old Duffy, and I think that his wrestling's going to get him the win. The hard thing is for me to call a finish at flyweight, even though there are a lot of finishes for Piccininni. He has won a fight by decision there. On the opposite side, you got a lot of finishes too. Last time a decision. And Duffy was on his back a bit with Devon Jackson, which I didn't like. And I think a guy like Piccininni definitely has a big wrestling edge. So we're going with Piccininni as the pick. He's in very good physical condition. He looked like, honestly, he has a little bit of the Marilyn Manson makeup on, bro. He's got those dark eyelashes. Holy shit. He's kind of got a demonic look to him. I'm a fan, bro. I like Piccininni's game. He's supposed to win this fight. On the opposite side, there's Duffy. Got the slim and slender look. I mean, I think he has potential in the game and could get to the UFC, but damn, this is a really hard test for him. Now, Piccininni's a little bit shorter. Looks more substantial here as they go face-to-face, and like the way that Duffy is leaning over, facing off with him. So it's not a crazy, crazy size difference. What I think is going to happen, if they strike, Piccininni's okay. But I still think that Piccininni's going to be willing to and able to grapple with the jiu-jitsu black belt. I'm kind of thinking Piccininni picks up a decision here. I'm hoping for a finish because he does have very good ground and pound. He's definitely strong on top, and there's things to like. It's just, is Duffy a guy that you can just beat on? He's probably going to be pretty scrambly. I don't know. I think Piccininni with control should win. Now, he's a really big favorite through the money line, minus 350, which I think is pretty wild. Duffy plus 285. I think 2-1 is a more reasonable line, but ultimately, yes, Piccininni is the pick to win. It opened up at minus 190, so I agree with what the books initially listed the line for Piccininni at. I also do feel as though it is going to go over a round and a half, which is minus 185. We got flyweights here. Piccininni by decision at plus 165 seems like a sensible outcome. Now, a knockout win for Piccininni now, plus 475. So it's weird that inside distance is plus 110. I guess the black belt in jiu-jitsu is the reason that it's hard for me to call Piccininni to finish him. But ultimately, Piccininni for the win is the outcome. He's a Gilroy wrestling guy, alongside DC and former UFC fighter Deron Winn. So, his wrestling knowledge is high caliber, man. And I think that wrestling game is too much for Jack Duffy. There's a level difference. In the Battle of California, Nick Piccininni takes home a win and a UFC contract, more than likely if he's dominant. Next fight on the card, we have Malcolm Wellmaker versus Adam Bramhald. I'm going with Malcolm Wellmaker to beat Adam Bramhald. I just think that Wellmaker is a little bit too slick and powerful for Bramhald in this one. And when you look at Bramhald, I mean, if you just watch his last fight, you can be convinced to think that he's going to take out Wellmaker, who's a very exciting prospect at 135. But what holds me back from believing that is seeing him get into a bit of a slobber-knocking scrap with Enev, who's more of a mid-caliber journeyman at best. There's a lot of experience with Bramhald, though, so I give credit where it's due. He's had a ton of fights. He does have a good striking skill set. He's talented. He's precise. I'd say he's relatively well-rounded. And he does have a patient style and pick shots well. But a major advantage he normally has, right, is that height edge. He's 5'10", but to be facing off against another bantamweight the same height as him in Malcolm Wellmaker, that's kind of insane. And another note about Wellmaker, if you guys didn't know, because his reach isn't listed, he's said to have a 77-inch reach. Now, I don't know if that's an overstretch, but at 5'10", a 77-inch reach is absolutely insane. And a 77-inch reach in the bantamweight division is crazy. Think of how many UFC middleweights and light heavyweights don't have 77-inch reaches. 77-inch reach at lightweight is massive. At 135, that's crazy. And that length is a major factor into me picking him, because I do think he also will have a bit of a speed advantage in the striking. I would say he's slicker and he's faster to the target than Adam Bramhald. I do think both guys are, in the developing process, but I feel as though Wellmaker has a higher ceiling and more natural gift of knockout ability and punching power, and a little bit of that natural timing that I don't think Bramhald has. So I actually do think, even though we're at 135, a violent fight is incoming. And I think Wellmaker is going to get a knockout here. I also have to tell you, the way that Bramhald presses, I believe he is susceptible to a left hand to the chin. Maybe it's a wide straight. Maybe it's a clean one down the line, or potentially something over the top. I can see Bramhald getting a little bit reckless, closing the gap, because even though he's a tall guy, he is going to need to press forward, and he has in the past. He's not as good from the outside in a technical sense as Wellmaker, even though last time out he fought a relatively decently skilled Muay Thai guy and Daniel Mello. Mello was a guy with no UFC potential or hope. Wellmaker's a problem. Wellmaker's going to KO him. We're going with Wellmaker to take it home. Now, as far as the scales, how do things look on these scales? Well, first, Bramhald, it looks like he had kind of a hard weight cut. He was still sweating as he got on the scale, but, moved around without looking like he was going to pass out, but very celebratory as he made weight. Now, on the opposite side, there's Wellmaker. I'd say he's also in very good shape. And then you see the face-off. Wellmaker looking a tad bit taller. The posturing, you got to favor Wellmaker. I mean, the face-off has been won by Wellmaker for sure. and I think that he's good. Southpaw, slick, powerful. I mean, there's too many things for me to like to say that Bramhald is going to give him his first pro loss. It just doesn't seem sensible. Let me zoom in. I realized I didn't zoom in for the last one. Now, Wellmaker is minus 250 at open. Wellmaker was minus 210. Odds I agree with. Bramhald is plus 210 as the underdog. I think Wellmaker is going to chin him, even though it's a bantamweight fight. There's violence incoming. And I mean, dude, you know, there's a lot of violence at 135 pounds. I believe this fight is going to end inside of the distance at minus 125. I actually don't think that's a bad bet at all, as opposed to going Wellmaker on the money line when he does have, high possibility of a KO. Wellmaker by a knockout is plus 170. I'm going to pick him by a knockout. Now, something to note about Wellmaker, this fight here against Taylor Moore, he won by majority decision. I searched the internet for that fight and I couldn't find it. If you were able to find it, you should definitely link it in the comments for the people to watch, because I think that fight is just completely dark. It like doesn't exist online. So was Wellmaker somewhat exposed in that? Like that's a little bit of the worry, but from what I could find, I do think he's slick, and I do think dealing with a fellow striker, he's got a good chance to win here. I'm going to go with Malcolm Wellmaker to knock Adam Bramhald out, and which should be a pretty entertaining fight. Next fight, featured bout of the night. We have Marco Tulio versus Mathieu Duclos. I think that Marco Tulio has a very good chance to go out and beat Duclos in this fight. Now, there are striking skills that Duclos definitely has that I would say are slicker and technically more skillful than Tulio, but I don't necessarily think the effectiveness of those shots is going to be enough so to take home a W, right? Because Duclos is going to need to rock Tulio and, kind of establish early that he is powerful, and you can't close the gap on him without getting eaten up with big bombs. Unfortunately for Duclos, he has had trouble with guys closing the distance before, and he's essentially a can crusher. Now, I'm not saying that Tulio has fought the best fighters ever over in LFA. He's fought some mid-tier Brazilians, but he still has fought in a relatively respected organization, getting decent enough wins. Now, he also is a Contender Series veteran. He fought Yusri Belgori. This was last season, and Belgori was training alongside of Alex Pereira, Glover Teixeira. He's at that gym, and there was a lot of hype on him as a former high-caliber kickboxer to go out, win a contract by beating Tulio. Tulio was able to pull through. Tulio's game is not purely striking. For the most part, it's actually more of a pressure grappling base. So really you have the jiu-jitsu pressure fighter versus the karate specialist, the Kyokushin karate background actually for Duclos. Ultimately, even though Tulio is known for the ground skills, it's not like he lacks some stand-up. I actually feel like he's pretty well-rounded. He has knockout power. He throws decent straight punches. And with a consistent takedown threat, it wouldn't be shocking to me if Marco Tulio was still able to find some massive punches on the feet. Something to also look at, you have a fair amount more of MMA experience for Tulio as a professional. Though Duclos is slick, and I do have to tell you, his style is good. He has a skill set that reminds me somewhat of a blend between somebody like Armen Petrosyan and somebody like Roman Kopylov, with a little bit of karate in the mix of it all. So the stand-up I do really like. I am just not confident that he can stop Tulio's bullying pressure and physical strength. Now, Tulio is also good at trip takedowns from the clinch, which is something I think you're going to see showcased for him here. So I'm going with Marco Tulio to get the win. I do think this fight goes to the ground, and I'm going to lean towards the submission side, but obviously inside distance is also a good play. We'll talk odds momentarily. First and foremost, let's see. I gotta say, respect. Duclos is in fantastic shape. Duclos looks absolutely shredded, and he's definitely a guy chasing this dream of getting to the UFC. He didn't put in a half-ass camp. He's a French fighter, though, and the French don't have the best grappling. Besides Benoit Saint-Denis, he's good. There is Tulio on the opposite side. He's in good shape as well, and he's a veteran of LFA and Contender Series. I respect the opposition far more. There's the face-off. You can see, I mean, Duclos wasn't making eye contact, but Tulio does have a good grappler's build. He has more width to him and thickness as opposed to the slick striker in Duclos. Now, as far as the odds, which we'll look at right now, the side of Tulio is nasty wide. It's minus 420, but listen, 420 is my lucky number. I think Tulio is going to take it home at minus 420. I think Duclos is a plus 320 dog for a reason here. At open, Tulio is minus 400. This would be a massive upset this week if this came to fruition. Now, I do feel as though inside distance Tulio at minus 350 is live. If he goes out and gets a submission, that line is currently sitting at plus 300, which is interesting, right? KO is minus 150. Duclos has pretty good stand-up. So if it is a knockout win, I will have to assume that Tulio has this fight on the ground and he is delivering some vicious ground and pound strikes. I don't think that Tulio is going to lay Duclos out on the feet. He might punch him with some big shots and there might be some damage done because of the grappling threat, but I expect him to use striking to get into the grappling positions and then dominate there and bully his way into a finish. So I am going to be picking Tulio to take home a W. I believe that he is destined to now get into the UFC and get a contract. He's a Chute Box Diego Lima guy. I am going to go with submission. It's a better odds. It's better odds prop betting wise, plus 300. So if you're looking at D-Gen bet it, you get more juice back. Ultimately, you can't really touch Tulio's money line. The only thing you could do with that is potentially do a parlay. We will talk parlays at the end. But Tulio for the win over Mathieu Duclos is going to be my official prediction in this fight. Next fight on the card, we have our co-main event. It's Michael Aswell versus Bogdan Grad. If you don't remember, Bogdan Grad was actually on last season's Dana White's Contender Series, and he was knocked out brutally in the first round by Tom Nolan. I'm going to pick Bogdan Grad to win this fight. I do not believe we should judge him from his worst moment against Tom Nolan where he was quickly knocked out. I think we have to look at what Bogdan Grad's abilities are. Now, I'll tell you this. I was wrong when I broke that fight down last year because I picked Bogdan Grad to beat Tom Nolan. Now, ultimately, yes, this was a bad prediction that was way off. But on the flip side of that, it's because I could recognize that Bogdan Grad is a talented guy. He does have really dangerous kickboxing, and he definitely has knockout power and explosiveness to go alongside of it. I like his stand-up game. He holds a tight and strong striking guard with a nice, versatile striking skill set, mixing in the elbows, mixing in the kicks, mixing in the punches, mixing in the knees, has that like pancration base to him. So he definitely uses elbows very well, which could potentially cause a cut here with Aswell. He's known for his finishing ability for sure. And I do think that he's the more versatile striker. Michael Aswell, I feel as though is more so of a boxer. He does have the MMA base for sure, but his striking style is more pressure boxing. Now, he closes the distance well, but he also does throw awkward right hands that I feel kind of put him in potentially counterable positions. And I think Bogdan Grad has the capabilities to find the knockout shot here. We're going to find out how good Aswell's chin is. He's been touched with big shots before. He's been in back and forth brawls. He's won back and forth brawls. But I think Bogdan Grad is pretty good. I don't know. He always gave me kind of a Rafael Ataman Faziev vibe. I always kind of felt there was comparisons to the potential there. Now, I'm not saying Bogdan Grad's going to be in the, top 10 of the damn UFC featherweight division, but I feel like he is relatively good, and I'm not going to write him off because of a quick loss to Tom Nolan in a fight where he was hit by a dangerous guy who's known for great offense and shitty defense. I think that Bogdan Grad has gotten better since then. Now, he does have 2 finishes since that point. He got a quick guillotine win over Batista, a guy who was not his level. And then he also got a knockout win by flying knee against a journeyman. And then you see the Nolan loss. In this fight here, he fought Renzo Mendez. He won a decision. Tudor and him. Actually, it was a tough fight against Tudor, but he still finished him with a spinning fucking back kick. I'm going to go with Bogdan Grad to beat Michael Aswell. I know he fucked up Nate Richardson. I mean, he was able to run Richardson over. He beat him up with punches. We'll say the eye poke kind of led to everything. So, I don't know. Gut feeling is Bogdan Grad is the one. I'm not saying I don't know because I don't know. I'm just saying I just have this feeling inside that Bogdan Grad can beat a Michael Aswell. He can find success in the striking against Aswell. I don't think Aswell is going to have a takedown option here. They're going to do a lot of striking. Bogdan Grad is not just a boxer. He has more tools than Aswell, and I do think he's going to find the win. And I'm going to call him finding a knockout, and I think it's going to be a pretty action-packed fight. Now, as far as the scales, Aswell looks like he's got a little craziness to him. I don't know how to describe it. Does he not have sadistic flow right now? Holy shit. At first, I was looking at his eyebrow. I think it's just a pimple, but I thought it was a staph infection. I'm like, man, he's got that staph right on the face. But no, he don't have the face staph infection, just a little pepperoni on the eyebrow. Nothing too crazy. Now, on the opposite side, you got Bogdan Grad, who looks jacked as hell. Bogdan, though, I mean, he kind of looks like fucking Caillou. If you guys, grew up in that time, it was a children's TV show. Also has kind of like a smushed head. No offense, Bogdan. I'll probably bring Bogdan Grad on the show to do an interview, and he can shaft me, bro. I don't know. He can rip me with a leg kick if he hates what I'm saying. But I am picking Bogdan Grad either way. I think he's a dangerous fighter. He's in crazy physical condition. I think he's working his ass off, man. I feel as though he's got the tools. He's been here once before. This is the first time for Aswell, and I just don't think the majority of his game being more so boxing-based pressure is going to be enough for such a wide array of striking weapons. So I'm going with Bogdan Grad to get the win, and I feel as though he will find the knockout of Aswell too. Now, Bogdan Grad is the underdog, which I will say I was pretty shocked. My brain automatically assumed Bogdan Grad is a 2-1 favorite because of the Contender Series experience, because of the win streaks, and really because of the way that he's beating people. He's very impressive. Aswell is minus 127, so I'm going with the underdog in Bogdan Grad. Now, as far as how this fight ends, under 1.5 is plus 170. That's risky. Fight ends inside distance, minus 145. Grad by KO, plus 300. If you're going to bet Bogdan Grad, I do think Moneyline is the best side, but there is money coming in. I'm seeing it right now. He opened up as a favorite. The line flipped, and it might be flipping back. I'm going with Bogdan Grad as an underdog. I do think he finds a way to beat Michael Aswell, and I will predict that he lays him clean. I think he puts him down, puts him out, and earns himself a UFC contract on this second try. Let's go. Let's jump to our main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. UFC predictions, news, reactions, live streams, and Contender Series content too. You don't want to miss a thing. Keep it locked in on the channel. Andrey Pulyaev versus Liam Anderson. Now, naturally, right? Pulyaev is an EV. Do I have to lean towards picking fights based off last names? No, I'm not going to do that here. I'm going with Liam Anderson. I couldn't find a ton on Pulyaev, but I did sit and watch his most recent fight, or rather 2 fights ago. This recent fight against Oliveira, I think it's another one that it's dark. You can't find it anywhere, but he ran him over easy. And I know Oliveira. Oliveira is a sloppy Brazilian journeyman who I think at this point is not taking his career seriously. So regardless of how the fight looked, I know the caliber of opponent that Oliveira is, and that's not a marquee win for Pulyaev. Now, what I see from Pulyaev is a decent enough striking game. He's got knockout power. I believe he has, 5 knockout wins. He's relatively skilled on the feet with his rangy style, but there is a lack of pop and a lack of quickness that I feel he has. that gives me low confidence in his ability to keep Liam Anderson, who is a tremendous pressure fighter, off of him. Now, Liam Anderson is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu based fighter. He thrives with his submission threats, and he's actually got very good submissions. Now, on the feet, though, it's not like he can't mix it up. He's a pretty scrappy striker who can rip some big hooks and also comes in with nice pressure. Now, he's not a high-caliber striking skill-wise, but he has incredibly good toughness and a ton of grit. And bringing in a consistent grappling threat to opponents on top of the striking skill set that maybe isn't high tier, but it's effective, I think is a powerful tool in this fight with Pulyaev, who I feel as though is going to get out-muscled, outworked, out-scrambled, and out-positioned. Now, I will also say there is something interesting about Liam Anderson is he actually has a really nasty left high kick. Now, when he is in orthodox, he snaps it up beautifully. When he's in southpaw, he rips it to the body nice. There's things that I like about Liam Anderson, not to say he's a perfect fighter, and I feel as though there's still, severe room to grow if you compare him to the top 15 of the UFC. But that's not what this is about. It's about, can he get a contract, or at the very least, can he beat Andrey Pulyaev, who I just don't feel that impressed by. Now, maybe Pulyaev had that fight recently where, he looked meh against Kondratyov, and maybe he was sick in that fight. Maybe he had the flu. Maybe something was off that we don't know. But from the evidence that I am presented, from seeing his fight there, he took on a 2-1 fighter. He won by armbar, but he was kind of looking fatigued a bit. He was shooting for takedowns a little bit lazily, but he was taking on somebody with way less experience and way less skill. And yes, he got an armbar win, but it just wasn't super impressive to me. I didn't take anything away from his fight and say, wow, I like that about this guy. While I watched Liam Anderson, I said, yes, he's flawed on the feet. Yes, he's been knocked down. Yes, he was getting touched up by Manning, who, was 2-0 at the time, a little bit on the feet. He knows how to win fights. He finds ways. He's a finisher. He's got better grappling than Pulyaev, and he's got the chin to hold up against Pulaev's punches. So I'm going to go with the American. I'm going with Anderson to take it home. And he also looked like a badass, man. He looks like he's pissed off, to be honest. He has kind of like a look of Jimmy from Bully, the old video game. You see what I'm saying? A little bit. He decided to get into MMA. That's the vibe I'm getting from him. But he's intense for sure, and the dude's in great shape. On the opposite side, there's Pulyaev. I mean, he looks decent. I don't know. You know what? This is going to be harsh, but I feel like Pulyaev fights slightly lackadaisical, whereas that's not the case with Anderson. He comes out like a bat out of hell. There's the face-off. You can see Pulyaev a little taller. I don't know. I think Anderson can get this fight to the ground. Weird build for Pulyaev. He kind of looks like, I don't know, Magomed Sharapov spinoff, something like that. That's the vibe I get. I think Anderson can beat him. I think Anderson could win this fight on the ground. I think he could be very live to end up getting a win by submission. I'm feeling like he is live for a finish. I think these guys are going to go after it hard. I feel like Anderson could thrive in a brawl. Pulyaev has been knocked out before. He was getting attacked against the cage, and I will say he kind of turtled over and gave up. And when I see that break, I'm like, I ain't seen that from Anderson. So I think Anderson finishes him. Now, as far as the odds, Anderson is a -210 favorite with Pulyaev as a +180 underdog. Looking towards the side of what? Over 1.5? Ends inside distance? Anderson by KO +250. Anderson submission +210. Damn. They don't give you much to work with here. Holy shit. I'm going with Anderson. I think he finds a way to pull through, whether it's ground and pound or a submission. I'm going to lean submission. No, I'm going to pick submission as the official method of victory for Liam Anderson. I see him finding a way to submit Andrey Pulyaev, and I do think he earns a contract. And he's a fun middleweight. Flawed still. Flawed. Not ready for the highest level, but fun to watch. Those are the Contender Series 2024 week number 3 full card predictions, but we're not done yet. I do want to briefly discuss how you could formulate a little parlay. Now, things are a little crazy on this card, I will say. Now, I do think that Tulio has a good chance to win. Putting that in with an over 1.5 from the Piccininni fight's not a bad idea. But if you want to keep it in the family, shit, Piccininni to win and the over 1.5 there is not a bad idea. I also see Liam Anderson finding a way to outdog him. Anderson, Piccininni together alongside of, if you did go Tulio, not a horrible idea. If you're pretty confident that, you know, this fight ends inside of the distance, there's obviously the under you could mix in. Bramhald and Wellmaker, I think Wellmaker gets him, but I'm just too concerned about that fight that doesn't seem to exist on the internet with Wellmaker. But I do have a, you know, legit feeling that he's going to get a knockout here. Now, Aswell and Grad, I like Grad as the underdog. I mean, if you want to be a savage, you go Grad, you go Piccininni, you go Anderson, or you go Grad and Tulio together. There's ways to mix and match it. With the damn Contender Series parlays, you got to make your decision. You want to be Mr. Value, or you want to try to find safety where there is no safety. There is no fucking armor. There is no shield. The Contender Series is fights between guys that have not fought at the highest level for the most part. Very few have. And unless they're ex-PFL/Bellator/one championship fighters, there's no way that they fought of like a super high level. You know, you're still dealing with prospects. It's the Contender Series, but they're taking in prospects because really it's the prospect series. And we're going to find out who deserves a chance in the UFC, and that's what I'm looking forward to. But yeah, bet it intelligently before. Do some research. And the annoying thing about some of these guys on the card is you're not going to find everything. So it kind of puts you in a spot where you, in a sense, have to rely on a little faith. And that could happen if you're going Wellmaker by knockout. If you go on Piccininni, he should pull through. Piccininni and Bogdan with Anderson, riskier parlay. Piccininni, Tulio, Anderson, another riskier one because there's three. You go Tulio, Piccininni, not a horrible idea. The over, right? Not a terrible idea. Fight ends inside distance with Grad and Aswell seems pretty damn likely to me. So there is ways to make it happen. Just bet it intelligently. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this week's Contender Series picks. It's late as hell. It's like 3:32 right now. I'm ready to go to bed. Much love, guys. Smash the likes. If you're new, subscribe it up. Definitely drop some love in the comments, whether it's, you know, dropping what you have to say or just a W. Either way, I really appreciate each and every one of you guys. See you for the fight companion. Good night, everybody. Peace out.